Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. For those of you who are here for the first time, I welcome you all the same. Thank you so much for the support thus far, and I hope that everyone is enjoying the information being shared here. So today in this video we are going to be discussing the hair growth cycle in terms of how the hair grows and different stages that the hair goes through. Basically, hair is made up of two parts. We have the hair follicle, which holds the hair in place, and we have the hair shaft. Now the hair shaft is what you can actually see, what we refer to as one strand or grain of hair. This particular hair shaft is made up of a protein called keratin. The hair shaft itself, which is one single strand of hair, has three parts to it. You have the outer layer, which is called the cuticle, and this helps to determine your hair porosity. Porosity I would explain in another video, so let's not get confused by that. You also have just under the cuticle, you have what we call the cortex, and in the middle of the hair strand you have what is referred to as the medulla, and those are the parts of the hair. And in terms of the hair growth cycle, based on research, you would see that it either has 3 stages or 4 stages. I would go on to explain each and every stage. Let's look at the first stage of the hair growth cycle. The first stage of the hair growth cycle is called the anagen phase. This is the growth phase of the hair. In this phase, the hair grows for about 2 to 7 years before the hair follicles become dormant. In this stage, your hair could also grow within that 2 to 7 year period up to about 80 to 30 inches in length. Right now, the hair length of course is determined by stuff like genetics, age, health, diet, exercise. All these good things could determine the length of your hair. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is referred to as the catagen phase. Right, the catagen phase. This phase lasts for about 2 to 3 weeks. In this stage, it more or less refers to as the transitional stage. Transitional in the sense that the hair stops growing and is now detached from the blood supply. This is after the first stage, which lasts for about 2 to 7 years. Right? The third stage is called the telogen phase. From the catagen phase, the hair that was in the resting phase, which was detached from the blood supply, is now there resting. The telogen phase is the resting phase. Within this period, the resting period lasts about, let's say, 3 months. And the hairs that are resting, it is now allowing for new hair to grow. So 3 stages that I mentioned before: the growth stage, the catagen phase, and the telogen phase. While it's in the telogen phase, it is resting, allowing for hair to enter the first stage, which is the anagen phase, for it to grow again. In the telogen phase, while it is resting, after the 3-month period, your hair will eventually fall out. And when that hair falls out, you have new hair coming out of the follicle. And it would go over that cycle again for another 2 to 7 years. And your hair will just continue to grow. The other, let's say that's about 10 to 15% of your hair would enter the telogen phase. All of your hair don't enter the telogen phase at the same time. The other 80 to 90% of your hair would be in the growth phase. So you always have hair growing while you're losing hair. And this is the reason why all of your hair don't grow the same time or at once, because then when your hair enters the telogen phase, which is the resting phase, in order for it to shed, all of your hair would fall out in patches. So that's the reason why you don't have patches of hair falling out all at once, because then you would end up totally bald. Now it is quite normal to lose hair about 50 to 100 strands of hair per day, At any point you notice more than this amount, and this is just average, anytime that you notice more than this amount, then there's cause for concern and something that you probably need to pay attention to. As I stated before, some persons might say, or based on research, you have 4 stages of hair growth. The 4th stage that I would mention, sometimes you would see it listed as the exogen phase. This is basically where the hair that was resting after that 3-month period, it falls out. It starts to shed, and that's the exogen phase, the falling out of the hair that was detached from the blood supply in the catagen phase. Enter the telogen phase, rested there for a period of 3 months, allowing new hair to grow from under that same follicle. Eventually it falls out and the new hair comes out. So you always have hair growing. And the reason why I chose to speak about this now is because persons would say, like, for example, when I started to recognize my hair loss problem, I did big chops one after the next, thinking, well, each time that I cut, the hair would grow back probably around the same length or the same time. However, before I was able to recognize what was the problem, I always had hair growing at different heights. Thinking that it was growing, it actually wasn't growing. It was hair falling out. So that's the reason for my hair being in such an uneven state. However, when I put my hands on the problem and started to do more research, I recognized that your hair don't grow at the same time. So at the last point when I recognized what was the problem, I decided, you know what, I'd cut off everything. And I did cut off all the hair at once. And when it started to grow, even though I had some places being uneven, I didn't bother to cut the whole thing again, because only after researching I recognized that, listen, your hair don't grow at the same time. All of the hair don't grow on your head at the same time. So it doesn't make sense you're cutting off your hair all the time, unless if it is in a bad state, then no problem. But it really doesn't make sense to be cutting your hair right through thinking, well, your hair is going to grow back evenly. That's not the way that your hair grew. So in another video, when I do trimming, I would explain further, and this is why I did it in this order, so that when I do the trimming video, persons would see the reason or understand why you don't trim, let's say, a structured way every 1 month or every week or every 3 months. Because sometimes when you trim like that, you'll be cutting off your hair that growing. And also on average, your hair would grow about ½ inch each month. That's 6 inches per year. So let's say you cut your hair every month. How much hair are you going to cut off from the end? Let's say you cut ½ inch, ¼ inch. Then you'll be cutting off that the hair that just grew. You'll be cutting off your length. So then you would start to question yourself, but wait, now my hair like it not growing. It's not that it's not growing. It's probably because you're cutting off all the hair that would have grown. So now that you understand the hair growth cycle, pay attention to how your hair grows, what happens while it's growing. Pay attention to the length of time. Monitor your growth. You could do length checks, but don't do excessive length checks till you're stressing out yourself and wondering, oh gosh, my hair only grow ¼ inch, just one boy. Wait, what's going on with my head? No. Genetics play a strong role in terms of the growth rate, so don't worry up yourself too much about that. Once you have a good little routine or regimen growing and doing stuff to stimulate that growth, everything would be in an order. If you have any questions, any comments, any concern, anything that I would have left out, feel free to comment. Post a comment down below, share the information, and we are all here to learn. So this short video again was just to touch on the hair growth cycle. And before I go, let me mention, at any given time on a person's scalp, you have basically between 100,000 strands of hair on your head. So there's a lot of hair. Pay attention to your growth cycle and your growth rate. Thank you guys again for being here. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you all again in another video to speak the truth. Bye.